mysteries of creation are there. In the sky. Up in the sky. The moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for knowledge and peace are there.
Hello and welcome to Your Inner Journey Weather Forecast, in which we utilize archetypal astrology to help you understand the themes and energies that might show up in your psychedelic journeys this week, in the journeys of your clients, the week of December 13th through December 20th, 2021. And this week we have three combinations which are very noteworthy, and they can be seen here in Archetypal Explorer. The first of which is this, in this graph here, the top of the graph is the exact alignment. So we can see this climbing alignment right here is moving towards exact, and that's called Saturn square Uranus. So let's talk about that. So Saturn square Uranus is a combination that involves the boundaries of Saturn and the freedom from boundaries of Uranus. So there's a tension between those two archetypes. And that can show up in our psychedelic journeys in a few different ways. If we are not really having proper boundaries and safety guidelines in the psychedelic journey, it can show up as a Uranian suddenness to a Saturnian reality check, kind of a reality principle, which is generally speaking what we do not want. So what we want is actually to dial in the set and setting and the safety constraints of the journey, the safety parameters, in such a way that the Uranian principle can come in as a kind of electric freedom. So once again, what we want to do is we want to honor Saturn going into the journey while we're still in consensus reality. We want to think about reality. We want to think about Saturn and institute the parameters for our safety, come up to the proper agreements and contracts with the sitters, in such that, you know, we'll remain in the journey space until the journey's over. We won't go outside or run away from the sitters or try to be on our own or something like that. We've got these parameters in place which actually honors the archetype of Saturn. And when Saturn is honored, recognized, consciously called in, and embodied as the maturity, the groundedness, safety precautions, and kind of taking care of the humdrum, more mundane aspects of what is potentially a very extraordinary experience. Then we've honored Saturn, we've consciously brought in Saturn, and Saturn tends to behave better. It tends to see, oh, this field that these people are creating is allowing for Saturn to be here. So Saturn comes in without having to come in through the back door and causing a big misery for everyone. So when that Saturn is honored, then also Uranus can come in its proper place. And Uranus comes in as the breakthrough. Uranus is associated with the freedom. Uranus is the archetype of the rebellion, the freedom, the excitement, the thrill, the kind of eureka moment, the innovation. And so we can think of it there as allowing, when we know we're safe and we know we're being taken care of by mature sitters with proper boundaries, we can be free. We can be free to express, we can be free to let the material come up, and that is itself freeing of the material. The material that can come up can actually free us. So that's the Uranian principle. So very important to keep in mind, because that alignment is an outer planet alignment. It's a big, bold energy, and it's coming into exactitude around this time. And so it really can't be ignored. We've got this energy for about 3 years, and it only has a couple of touch points where it's exact, and this is one of them. So be mindful of that. The next combination of note for this time period involves this Venus conjunct Pluto aspect. So we can see that the top of the graph here is the exact alignment, and this alignment is near exact, and it's kind of dipping down but going back up. That's because Venus is going retrograde and is what we call stationing on Pluto. That means before it goes backwards, it appears to stand still in the sky. and it stands still in exact conjunction with Pluto. So what does that mean? So Venus-Pluto is, Venus is associated with the beauty principle, the principle of pleasure, the pleasure principle, harmony, the archetype of harmony, that which harmonizes and makes us feel pleasure through that sense of harmony. Like when you hear a certain melody, and the harmony of the melody kind of gives a pleasant vibration through your body. So Venus associated with harmony, associated with pleasure, associated with the law of attraction. Because what do we do when we hear something pleasant? We want to go towards that. So pleasure, that which attracts. As such, it's associated with beauty, art, friendships, love, sensuality, sexuality, pleasure. These are Venusian areas, aspects of life. Pluto is associated with that which is underworldly, that which draws us into the underbelly, the underside, where we get revealed the dark side for the sake of kind of a purification, almost like a hero's journey, when the hero is called into a sort of an underworldly ordeal that reveals the dark side of themselves, but in turn forces them, through facing the dark side of themselves, to purify themselves and become a more whole being. So with that, we can see the Venus-Pluto combination showing up as the underbelly of the Venusian, like the difficulties in friendships, the kind of power struggles that show up in friendships, the power struggles that show up in sexual relationships, the kind of depth of connection and what's entailed in that in love relationships, things like jealousy, possessiveness. Again, Pluto invites whatever archetype it's combined with into the underworld so it can face its kind of shadow, and then be purified through that. So we actually want to get to a deeper place of actually like deeper love by actually having kind of burping up the darker sides of friendship, or of jealousy in relationship, or of power dynamics in sexuality. And in sexuality, it can be also a time for healing if there are issues and psychedelic experiences around sexuality, abuse of sexuality, violation of sexuality, because it can take us kind of into the underworld where we can be with those difficult energies. And Pluto is a transformative archetype. It wants to burn away the impurities and kind of help us purge, help us become transformed through having faced those dynamics. And so it can be very healing. The Venus-Pluto time can be very healing when they go in retrograde. You know, issues of everything that we talked about usually will be retrospective, things from the past. So it can be an opportunity to heal those things from the past. I was spending time with a colleague recently in which she was bringing up sexual transgressions that were happening in the psychedelic space, in the healing space, in which somebody who was providing medicine was taking advantage of the people who were taking the medicine. And so this is the time to have these things come up. This is the Venus-Pluto time to have them come up, to have them faced, so that for everyone involved, there can be a kind of a deepening and a healing process. Pluto is associated with the underworld, the taboo. And the taboo is usually kind of swept out of sight because of its unsightliness. But now is the time to kind of allow it back into sight, allow it back into conscious awareness, allow it back into our communal space so that we can be with those energies. And that's the only way to allow those energies come to light and come to healing. So there's a clip right here that is a clip of Vanessa Hudgens, just to give you a sense of the characters of Venus and Pluto. So Vanessa Hudgens, born with Venus-Pluto. If you watch this clip, it can kind of give you a sense. It's a clip from Spring Breakers, a movie in which she starred in which there's a Venus-Pluto interaction in between her and a kind of an underworldly male figure. And there's a kind of like a taboo interaction between them. And so that can give you a sense of Venus-Pluto if you watch that. Okay, so the last combination for this week we want to talk about is as we get towards the weekend, there's a full moon. And that full moon is right on Neptune. So that is a combination, the moon Neptune component, the moon, so it's moon square Neptune and moon and Neptune together over the weekend is a combination that has a different energy. It has a kind of a lighter touch, offers a sense of dissolving, offers a sense of a kind of a subtle, softer, rarefied nuance to spiritual experience that can allow us to feel very connected to others, particularly to the feminine aspect of reality and experience, because the moon is associated with connection, emotional connection to ourselves, to others, a sense of community, a sense of belonging to a larger social connective fabric. And the moon is also associated with the female figures. And Neptune is that which wants to dissolve, make spiritualized, make rarefied, make subtle, and kind of, it can also make things very enchanted. So there can be a sense at that time of being in touch with a kind of a return to the more subtle, divine, feminine, a feeling of enchantment around those energies. And here's a clip right here, which is a nice comedy clip from Saturday Night Live, in which Kristen Stewart, who is born with Moon Neptune, demonstrates a Moon Neptune figure with another female. It's a kind of a return to the feminine, return to the divine, involves a lot of water, which is very Neptunian. Journeys during a full moon on Neptune, sometimes there can be maybe water involved, maybe floating in water after the fact, something like that, or feeling as if one is in water, or having visions as if one is with the dolphins and the whales and the oceans, and having community with them, things like that. So those are the three dynamics, three of the most prominent dynamics for this week. So if you'd like to learn how archetypal astrology works, how it can reveal your unique superpowers, check out the link below. And of course, click and subscribe so you can be updated every week about the Inner Journey weather forecast. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful week, an insightful week, a week of growth. And we'll see you next week on your Inner Journey weather forecast.